Welcome to Politics NY's newest video interview series in the community with, sponsored by AARP. I'm Robert Pozaricki, Executive Editor of AM New York Metro. Today we'll be in the community with City Council Member Tiffany Cabán of Queens. She represents the 22nd District, covering the neighborhoods of Astoria, East Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, and Woodside. Her district also includes Rikers Island. She's up for re-election in November after first being elected to the City Council in 2021. Councilmember Cabán, great to have you with us.
Nice to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so let's get started with the topic of ageism, which is something that permeates all aspects of life, in the workplace, street design, public transportation, even how services are promoted and accessed. What is one ageism issue that you've seen in your community, and how have you addressed it?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. You've already touched on it. There is not a policy area or a piece of like city infrastructure that doesn't intersect with our aging community, whether it's housing, healthcare, all kinds of things, the criminal legal system. But I will, broadening it out a little bit, I will say the number one issue across the board here in our district and probably across the city is housing, right? And affordability. And it becomes even that much more difficult for senior populations on fixed incomes. And then in addition to that, talking about being able to access under those circumstances a continuum of care, right? Healthcare. We don't have a health and hospitals facility in our district, so we're fighting to get that. And then, supportive services that allow older adults to age with dignity. And if I could tie it into one other thing in a specific population, I co-chair the LGBTQIA+ caucus, and I am the chair of the Committee on Women and Gender Equity. And so I held a joint hearing with a council member who is the other co-chair of what I'll shorten and say is the Queer Caucus, Council Member Crystal Hudson, who chairs the Committee on Aging. And we did a joint hearing on LGBTQIA+ elders and their access to city services and where there needs to be more support. And together we put out a policy paper called the Marsha and Sylvia Plan that really leaned into some of the areas where all of our aging population is experiencing this, but then when you have subsets of populations with specific needs, like our queer community, who might be distanced from family because of their queer identities, especially older adults, right, that came up in earlier generations where there was a lot less acceptance and don't have access to family supports and things like that. So establishing a commission for queer older adults, building specific housing, not just for elders, but queer elders, and lots of other things like that.
All right. So AARP is also updating its livability index, which can be found at aarp.org. It scores neighborhoods and communities across the United States for the various services and amenities provided. That includes housing, transportation, and health. I know you touched on quite a few of these already, but what are some of the challenges in your district, and how will you use your position to make the neighborhoods more livable for everyone, regardless of age?
Yeah, I think accessibility is a real problem, right? And it's across the board, no matter the mode of transportation. There was a hearing, also oversight hearing, that was done on the issues with accessoride, but even public transportation. In our district, there we have above ground subway stations and subway lines, and only a couple of our stations have elevators. And so we've worked with the city to secure and make sure that the addition of a couple more elevators is in the capital planning in the upcoming fiscal year. So it's part of sort of a larger five-year plan to make sure that we are adding that accessibility, not just for older adults, but parents, people who live with physical limitations or disabilities. We have we want to add dedicated bus lanes, which one thing that we were able to really focus on and get accomplished early in my term was the 21st Street bus lane, and then working with our seniors to make sure that when those spots for where the stops would be really made a lot of sense. And I'll give you an example. We had a senior center off of 21st Street where the bus stop was moved, and so it didn't exist right outside the center anymore, and that didn't make any sense, right? We don't want our older adult population having to walk farther to get to their bus stop. So making sure that we're addressing issues like that in terms of mobility. But the other thing too is we talk a lot about, I know a lot of what we're mentioning is capital, but expense spending is really important too. And it's not just about infrastructure. It's really saying, what does it mean to be able to age with dignity, to enjoy your life, to have access to things? And that means funding for programming that brings you joy, right? That can broaden your education on different issues, can keep your mind busy and well exercised. So that's something I focus on a lot. And we talk about funding for young people and keeping young people having plenty to do. But I think our older adult communities need that kind of investment too. So we do a lot of senior center partnerships with theater companies and the Queens Museum of Art and all kinds of stuff. And we're always looking to expand those things.
Entertainment's often overlooked, but it's really important for everybody.
It's so important.
Yeah. Let's talk about the district as a whole. What would you say is the top issue you've heard from your constituents over the past year, and what have you done to address it?
Housing. It's housing, housing, housing. And we are in the midst of an affordability crisis, a homelessness crisis. My district is one that I feel very, very proud and lucky to represent this district because, and I get that I'm biased, but I'm like, we have everything here. We have some of the best food. We have some of the only restaurant rows outside of Manhattan, right? On Ditmars and 30th and Broadway. We have, little arts venues. We have really good small businesses. It's just, we have the beautiful Astoria Park, although we lack in park space overall. But it really is an attractive neighborhood. We're close to Manhattan as well in terms of commuting. And part of the crisis is being exacerbated by corporate real estate. A lot of people don't know this, but the two and three family homes here, they're not being bought up by working class families trying to build a little generational wealth, have something to pass down to their kids. But 3/4 of the housing stock here in the district is being bought by private equity and having these homes flipped into market rate rental units where, market rate, it's unaffordable. So it's getting harder and harder to stay here. And those are things that we're working on. Early on in my first term, approved the Helletts North project, which brought 30% affordability to a really polluted, vacant industrial lot on the waterfront. And it produced hundreds of affordable housing. It will produce hundreds of affordable housing units. And that's literally more units of affordable housing than this district has produced in the last decade combined. And in negotiating that deal, secured $1 million of unrestricted funds for NYCHA, for the Astoria houses that we are distributing using participatory budgeting. And the beautiful thing about that is in that participatory budgeting for, program services, some of that money is going to go into senior services, which I know is the theme of the day. So it's housing. People, we're not able to process vouchers quick enough. The administration, because of the mayor's cuts and the pegs, right, the plan to eliminate the gaps, we're seeing that we don't have enough personnel in our city agencies to move things along, to get people into housing more quickly. And then we have precarious people. One of the bills that I passed, first of its kind in the country, an emergency micro grant program for survivors of domestic violence. And that puts money into people's hands when they need it the most. And 70% of the people who go into family shelters are people who are leaving dangerous domestic violence situations. So really fighting for solutions like that to kind of hit the housing crisis from all ends.
Okay, so we're running a little bit short on time, but if you could really quickly just provide anyone that you worked with over the past year that you'd like to recognize for the positive impact on the community.
Oh my God.
That's a lot. I know it's a lot.
That's an unfair question because there are so many beautiful residents of District 22. I mean, we have small business owners who are just like beautiful mentors and contribute to like mutual aid work in the community. I want to shout out Dave's Lesbian Bar, just trying to open the first brick and mortar lesbian bar, which they're dwindling across the country, but there's none in Queens. And in fundraising the money they need for a physical space, have been doing pop-ups every month here in Astoria. And every month they also pair it with a good cause. They have donated money to the Queens Community House that serves LGBT seniors. They have done food pantry work. They've done it's just, they're so embedded in community and do really great work. We have business owners that are invested in participating in the SYEP program, right? Summer youth employment. There are so many people that are doing it. The Astoria Food Pantry that's doing mutual aid work. I could go on and on. This is a really special neighborhood.
It very much sounds like it. And I want to thank you for joining us today.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much. And that wraps up this installment of In the Community With, sponsored by AARP. I'm Robert Pozaricki. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Cool. Thanks. Take care.
You too.